Malume Wama Wololo. Good morning and welcome to AM News.
Hola. Thank you, my man, for having me.
Shakes Mashaba is saying he hopes that Sundowns win will wrap off the national team performance. Your thoughts?
Let's go to 1995. Orlando Pirates go against all odds in Abidjan and beat ASEC. And then a year later, South Africans are crowned the African champions. Look at that team. It was only William Opara who came from Nigeria and was in the goals. A core of that team in 1996 came from Orlando Pirates by virtue of their experience on the continent. You just oppose that against a Sundowns team against all odds. Not really that went to Egypt and won the CAF Champions League. Again, he used the word inspired, and I agree with him. It must inspire Bafana Bafana, but rubbing off, I don't know, because if you look at this Sundowns team, I've always said is the France of 2002, is the United Nations or the AU of Africa. In as far as I'm concerned, you've got Onyango, who's from Uganda, playing in a blunder in the post. Kama Billiard from Zimbabwe, who is also a blunder. You've got Castro, Leonardo Castro from Colombia. You've got none other than Kennedy Mweni from Zambia, and you've got so many other players, and Tony Lafont from Liberia. So for me, only 4 players
and
of the Sundowns.
From South Africa, Keegan Dolly from South Africa.
4 players from Sundowns are going to the national team. Are they the core of the national team? I don't know. And at the end of the day, inspiration is the right word. But I can tell you that if all is said and done, I guess South Africa have the players with the ability to win. If the selection policy is right, if players are called on the basis of form and not on the basis of reputation and history.
So now, which now takes me to the next point. You raised a whole lot of fellow African brothers that are playing in Sundowns and doing ever so well. What does that now have? What does that now say when it comes to the whole issue of foreign policy players in our teams here in South Africa?
You can't have your cake and eat it. If you look at England, everybody watch the English Premier League because the day Ayew is there, I'm from Ghana, I'll watch. Jordan Ayew is there, I'm from Ghana, I'll watch. Seydou Mane is there, Senegalese are going to watch. Success from Nigeria, Ngalo are there. Iwobi from Nigeria, they are there. Africans will watch. And at the end of the day, you see, when you bring a lot of foreign players, sometimes it's got the ability to derail the development of your own national team as a country, and that is why it's a question of opportunity cost. But what I like about the president of Mamelodi Sundowns, where when he bought this team says, I want to conquer Africa. 21 years later, he has indeed done that, and he gave that success one to South Africa and the Premier Soccer League in as far as being one of the best 10 leagues in the world and the most professionally run league on the African continent, the most well marketed package of a league on the African continent. And I'll say what they have done well, not only for themselves, for South Africa and for SADC, because Kama Billiard is from Zimbabwe, it's in SADC. And he says also for the African continent, because they are going to represent Africa in the Club World Cup in Japan in December, and that makes me very happy. When I look at Anthony Lafont, the first Liberian player in the history of Liberian football, not even the King George Weah, who was the African Footballer of the Year, European Footballer of the Year, and the World Footballer of the Year in the same year, was able to win that accolade for his country. He takes the gold medal of the CAF Champions League to his country to inspire generations that are looking at him as a foreign player who is doing well on a foreign soil. And for me, that is a very good phenomenon. But again, we must commend the president of Sundowns. Football is a process, not an event. At a point in time, people were laughing at him of saying he wanted to buy Makai Antini to go and play because he didn't know that Makai Antini was a cricketer. He wanted to buy everything. But the buying have paid off dividends in a way never seen before. And for this week, all our problems, all our economic woes, all our political differences was cast aside. And we all jumped on the Cabo Yellow Nation bandwagon to say, well done, Mamelodi Sundowns. The amount of people, even Bobby Mtao going to the airport, Danny Jordan, Dr. Ivan Koza, a number of football fans going as South Africans, not necessarily supporting Sundowns. You've spoken to say halala.
You've spoken about the president of Sundowns, but also you can't ignore Peter Musiman, the first South African coach to conquer the continent. He's the same coach who used to coach Bafana Bafana, and South Africans were complaining that the results were not coming. And there there he goes. He conquers the African continent with his boys. What do you have to say about him as a coach?
I was very critical of Patrice Motsepe when he coached Bafana, because by that time he was young. He couldn't handle the media properly. But when it came to Sundowns, his a game against Golden Arrows at the beginning of last season, where he lost, Abantu Bele win or lose as a fool. They wanted to find him by hook or crook. And Motsepe stuck by him and says, I believe in this guy. With age, he has matured like a wine. And he has proved that he's a good coach. Kamabiliat was playing for Ajax. He didn't deliver the kind of forms you are seeing now. Patrice Motsepe has turned his game around. And he has proved that he's not just a coach. He's a master of a game. He's a student of a game. He studies the modern trends, are able to teach his players to play to the best of their ability. I cannot say more than him. The first indigenous South African coach to win not only on the domestic football terrain, but to conquer Africa. He follows in the footsteps of C.K. Jemfi. He followed in the footsteps of Hassan El Hadi from Egypt. He followed in the footsteps of the coach from TP Mazembe, who won a tournament for them. And he has proved one again that football is a process and not an event. And if you give a person time and space and support them, they will deliver, they will do the job for you.
Let's also now look at, we spoke about this bringing the shine on the PSL as well. Let's talk about, because we know there are a number of teams in the PSL that don't take the African football duties quite seriously, if you will, because they don't give it their all. They feel in most cases it's too much of a mission. There's so much money that has to be spent on this. Going forward, did you see this changing?
Sundowns win must rub off on all other Premier Soccer League teams that win on the domestic terrain. And they should take the Pan-Africanist competition very serious to try and ensure that South African football is put on the continental map and by extension on the global stage. No team in the PSL must go like a Desical with a mentality to lose and try and make South African football the ridicule and the laughing stock on the continent. Sundowns have proved that with the right players and right mentality and the right technical team, you can be able to conquer the continent. And therefore, this is a challenge first to Kaizer Chiefs, to beat Vet, to SuperSport United, to all other Premier Soccer League teams that wants to win and think there is money ekaya and therefore they don't want to go on the continent. If you don't want to go on the continent, please make us a wish. Don't win events at home. If you don't want to go to Africa, don't win Telkom, don't win the league. Just come and add numbers and compete. If you want to win, then you should be prepared. Invest in it. Go to Africa. Put South African football on the continental map, and you are going to make everybody very happy.
Thanks a lot for coming through. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Coudjoe Amankwaa. Of course, that's SABC soccer analyst, sharing his views with us on what does that mean by Sundowns mean to us as South Africans and our football.